So welcome, Jean-Paul AGON to ESCP Europe. Thank you very much for taking the time to attend this event. We greatly appreciate it. We'd like to say how grateful we are to the L'Oréal executives who support it and help us throughout the project of writing and publishing this book. We chose with the L'Oréal team to have an informal and friendly discussion tonight, hoping to create fruitful exchanges and insight between you, Jean-Paul AGON, and the ESCP Europe community. That's the reason why students from the Tribune Association are with us tonight to drive this event. Thanks a lot. Also, taking advantage of our European locations, we are connected to our London campus, thanks to Marie Taillard, and to Madrid campus, thanks to Olga Alonso. Thanks to all of you for joining us tonight. Madrid. Hola. Thanks to all of you for joining us tonight, students, colleagues, and the team from our publisher Duno. More personally, I would like to express how lucky I am as a researcher to study, to work on, and to work with a company like L'Oréal. It has been a fascinating research field for more than 20 years, and I never get bored. I discover new things all the time, updating keys to understand the incredible and sustainable success of this company. In short, it's a never-ending subject of research. Throughout the years, for more than a century, L'Oréal has transformed itself to face major issues, as most recently the digitalization of the world economy. But at the same time, in each new development, one can perceive identical approaches to face challenges and to act accordingly. So for more than 20 years, L'Oréal was for me neither completely the same, not quite another. I now give the floor to Jean-François.
So, welcome to our book, L'Oréal, la beauté de la stratégie. I would like first to turn to Jean-Paul AGON, because when we first met, it was more than 2 years ago, we were well ahead with our project, and we had met a lot of people, we had gathered a lot of data, and we had started to make sense of our data. And we wanted to meet you at this stage just to validate what we did, to see the value of our hypothesis, the way we understood L'Oréal. And so we met in Clichy at the headquarters of L'Oréal. Incidentally, it is the place where was located a long time ago under the presidency of Eugène Schuller, Montsavon factory and offices. So a kind of faithful presence in Clichy, which is for us something important. So at this stage, I should say that the interview with you was above our expectations, and and it was fruitful, it was challenging, and at the same time very respectful, very kind. And so at the end, I remember it was in February, it was 8 o'clock in the evening, it was a bit cold outside, and very warmly you accepted our invitation to come here and give a conference to our students. So it was more than 2 years ago. Now, we have to say that this project took more time than we expected. And so when, more than 2 years later, we said, so it was now 2 months from now, we came back to you and we said, well, the book is supposed to be available at the end of May. It would be fantastic if you could come here and give your conference in June. The beginning of June would be fantastic. and you gave us several dates. 2 or 3 days later, we made the decision of today, and the conference takes place today. So you, to some extent, you kept your word, you kept your promise, and for this, honestly, I want to thank you a lot. Now I want maybe to turn to the students. As I said, it took more time than expected. Many things changed. The title changed, the publisher changed, the number of chapters, the titles of the chapters, the length of the book. It was a long process of cooperation, of co-construction. In the end, we are proud of the results, thanks to you and to all the people who participated in this adventure. So thank you to all of them. Now, I must admit that you can read the book at any time. However, by contrast, speaking with Jean-Paul AGON, interacting with him, having a dialogue with him is not so easy. So I would like to tell you, please do enjoy the presence of Jean-Paul AGON. Have a fruitful dialogue with him. So now I want to hand over and to the students and to the Tribune. So thank you.
Thank you, Roland.
On behalf of the Tribune students, I thank you, Mr. AGON, for accepting to meet the students of ESCP Europe. To welcome you and to introduce you to the audience, I am to remind them your past. You were born in 1956 in the Paris suburbs. You joined L'Oréal in 1978 after graduating from HEC Paris, and made all your career in the company. After a brief stint as product manager of the consumer products division in France, you have been appointed general manager of L'Oréal Greece at the age of 24. You have also been general manager of L'Oréal Paris and international managing director for Beauté. You worked as managing director of L'Oréal Germany before being in charge of L'Oréal Asia Zone. You have been president of L'Oréal USA before being named chief executive officer in 2006, and then chairman in 2011. Before taking these responsibilities, you began your career in L'Oréal as a salesman in Southwest France at the age of 22, which makes you define yourself as the child of L'Oréal. You have been challenged from the first years of your career, as you have to face a tumultuous record. You have been appointed managing director of Greece, whereas you didn't know a word of Greek. You have been appointed managing director of the German branch during the German reunification. Later, you are asked to create the Asian subsidiary during the Asian financial crisis, to be nominated thereafter managing director for the United States few days before 9/11. Your career is turned towards an international involvement, as for you, the beauty sector is naturally a multicultural one. Yet, you have never been that far from France, as you embody the promotion of French business in foreign countries. That is why you always defend with strength what you call the French celebrating. Your strong personality has been influencing the strategy of the #1 company in the cosmetic industry since your nomination as Chief Executive Officer. Indeed, the man of the challenges that you are is also the man of the billions. 100 billion of market capitalization and your perspective of 1 billion new customers by the 15 years to come, whereas it took 100 years for L'Oréal to reach the first billion customers. Ambitious, aren't you? Yes, you are, but not only. In L'Oréal, you also reveal your awareness to key issues such as the role of companies in the society and the protection of the environment. One of your main projects for your company is to make all your products social and environmental friendly ones. Yet, don't you travel all around the world 3 times a year? Is that not paradoxical? Some other features make you an unusual CEO, namely your simplicity and your accessibility, which brought you up to try the L'Oréal app, Makeup Genius, which imagines you with any kind of makeup just in front of your board. Last but not least, I should simply remind that only 5 men have run the company since its creation in 1909. Just men. For a company which generates 90% of its sales revenue thanks to women consumers, it's a little problematic, isn't it? Well, in fact, this is just to show that the former terms as CEO have last decades. Thus, you are likely to run the company for some more years. And we can just hope that you will take up some other ambitious challenges and innovations.
So, Mr. Agon, through this presentation, we understood that you made all your career at L'Oréal. So my first question will be, why did you choose to join L'Oréal just after graduating from HEC?
So good evening first. I'm just to say that I'm very happy to be back here because I think it's the first time after, we said 39 years, because of course I took exams here 39 years ago. And so it's a great pleasure to be back. And I also want to say that the book is a very good book. So I promise that I have no commission on the sales of the book, but I really recommend you to read the book. It's very well done. It took two years, but it was worth it, as we say at L'Oréal. So why did I choose L'Oréal? In fact, when I was at HEC, I wanted to start my own company. I tried, it didn't work very well. And then I met with the L'Oréal people. They came to the campus, and I think what they said was interesting. And at L'Oréal, they said, join us, and we'll see. We'll see, depending how strong you are, how fast you are, how talented you are, you may go very fast or not. I mean, it depends completely on you. So first, this was very attractive to me because it was very entrepreneurial in a way. And the other thing is that I knew that I wanted to do marketing because, as the story tells, I know at HEC, in fact, I did finance because at that time it was very fashionable to do finance. So I wanted to please my parents and do the finance option. But in fact, I was so bad in finance that my head teacher in finance at the end of the year said, Jean-Paul, you're very gifted, but really for marketing, not for finance. So forget finance and go to marketing. And he was right. So I knew I wanted to do marketing. I knew I wanted to travel the world. And I was also very attracted by the beauty industry, because I really believe that when you want to do marketing, I think that beauty is the supreme art of marketing. Marketing for beauty, I think, is an art because it's a mix of strategy, but also emotion, sophistication, imagination, creativity, and it's really fascinating. So that's why I joined L'Oréal.
Mr. Agon, thank you for being with us today. Mr. Agon, you've done a large part of your career abroad, and you perfectly know that the markets are constantly moving nowadays. I think there is like 90% of your turnover that is made abroad, and you're now planning to reach a new billion of consumer for the future, and by positioning well in emerging markets like the Asian one, for example. So, according to you, what makes a good multicultural manager today?
That's a good question. First, just to come back to what you said, it's true that what's fascinating. I think there are two things fascinating with the L'Oréal story. The number one is what I said before, is the fact that marketing for beauty is really a supreme art of marketing, but also that the adventure, the L'Oréal adventure, is a fantastic international adventure, and it's a real adventure. L'Oréal started from France and then expanded to Europe, and then expanded to North America, and then to South America, and then I started personally Asia only in '97, and now we are expanding to Africa, and so this adventure is absolutely fascinating because it's really expanding to new countries, new people, new cultures. And what's very interesting also with beauty, the other thing which is very interesting with beauty is that beauty is very cultural. When you deal with inventing beauty products for people in India, in Brazil, in China, in Mexico, or in Japan, or Korea, or whatever, you really deal with not only the specific needs or wishes of these people, but also their traditions, their cultural habits, and this is absolutely fascinating. So, to cut a long story short, well, I think what you need if you want to be if you want to do this adventure, you need first a very open mind, and you need also what I think is very important, and what I think L'Oréal has, but that you don't find so frequently in other companies. It's what I call empathy. Empathy is a very special talent. It is the talent to be able to understand, not intellectually, but emotionally, conceptually, what the others want, what the others dream of, what the consumers are expecting, even if they don't really know themselves what they expect. So it's this empathy capacity which I think is extremely important in our company. And this is a talent. You have it or you don't have it. It's of course you can develop it. You can develop it with the time. But I think also it's a little bit like the marketing talent. I think marketing is also a talent. It's like the good ear for music. You have it or you don't have it. And empathy is also very important in this industry. And it's fascinating.
I read in the press that the French Prime Minister Manuel Valls took your concept of French celebrating. And how do you think the image of France abroad is important for L'Oréal activities? And what does your company do to promote it?
Yeah, it's a kind of paradox also, because of course, we are not a French company everywhere around the world, and we are not trying, to export the French model in every country of the world, and for a very simple reason also, is that our portfolio of brand is very multinational. We have French brand, but we have also Italian brands, we have British brand, but we have also American brands. We have, by the way, I think now more or same number of American brands than French brands. We have a Japanese brand, we have a Chinese brand, and probably tomorrow, I don't know, we'll have an Indian brand, a Korean brand, or we bought a Brazilian brand. So the model of L'Oréal is absolutely not to export the French vision of beauty. On the contrary, the vision of L'Oréal, the model of L'Oréal is to offer to every consumer in the world a choice between all types of visions of beauty. A consumer, for example, in Argentina, we want to be able to offer her, the French vision of beauty, or the Italian one, or the American one, or the Japanese one, or the Chinese one, etc. With this being said, I was just reacting, in fact, with this concept of French celebrating against the French bashing, because it's true that we are, for all of us living in France, I mean, it's a bit unpleasant to hear always this kind of French bashing, which is depressive. So what I said is that, in fact, I think that one of the reasons why L'Oréal has become L'Oréal is that we have some strengths that are typical of the strength culture. You know, it's this capacity of innovation, invention, quality of research, quality of marketers also, this great intuition, inspiration, and even this idea of empathy, I think, is pretty French. You know, when I see our competitors, because, you know, almost all our competitors are non-French. Sometimes people think that beauty is a French industry. Not at all. If you look at the top 5 or 6 or 10 companies in beauty, only L'Oréal is French. Number 1 is L'Oréal, number 2 is P&G, it's an American, Unilever is Brit or Dutch, Shiseido, Henkel, etc. So we are the only French one, and I think that one of our strengths, which is typical of the French uniqueness, is this empathy. Because when I see our competitors, they have strength also, but they don't have this one. So that's why I just said when he came to see us in Clichy that I thought that at L'Oréal we don't participate at all in the French bashing, we participate in the French celebrating. Which doesn't mean, by the way, that we only want to promote French. That's the French people. We want to promote talents from everywhere in the world.
Last summer, I was myself sales representative for L'Oréal Paris.
Good, good choice.
I had to visit
good sales.
Yeah. I had to visit a portfolio of around 80 supermarkets. I had to check the assortment of products, and I had to present new products to the managers of the supermarkets. And as Lars said during your presentation, you were sales representative when you began in L'Oréal. Indeed, being sales representative seems to be a must in order to progress in your company. Why is that so important, and how did it help you to become the CEO of L'Oréal?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think in a way, every step is important, and your first step is important. And the first step when you want to, when you join L'Oréal and want to have a marketing career, you have to start with salesman. Because this is a fantastic way to learn about your customers, to learn about the relationship with consumers in the stores. You learn the products, you learn competition, and you really, you know, when you live the life of the salespeople, you are really, you really understand what it is about. And I think that this, to be honest, I remember very well this first year. It lasted, as you said, 1 year. Usually at that time it was more 6 months, and I don't know why, but the L'Oréal people at that time thought that I needed more. So I enjoyed very much. You know, I loved it, and I really believe that I think you're right. During this first year, I learned a lot. Many things that were extremely useful for the following years. But you know, that's also the way we do it at L'Oréal. You know, we believe that every step in your career is a fantastic way, is a fantastic milestone, very important to help you acquire new skills, new talents, new experience, etc. And I have been very lucky because I have been sent very young to do things that were extremely instrumental in my career. You know, it's true that when I was sent to Greece when I was 24 or 25 years old, it was an amazing opportunity for me because you know, I was 25. I had no experience of Very short experience of sales, very short experience of marketing, 1.5 years, no experience of human resource, no experience of finance, no experience of production or whatever. And I was sent there, and I had to cope with it. And of course, it was very small. You know, the risk, there was no big risk, but I learned a lot. And in fact, you know the story. They didn't send me because they thought I was a genius. They sent me because Greece was a very tiny business. It was in a very difficult situation, and they couldn't find anyone to go there. And they had, yeah, that's a true story. You know, at that time, the head of the human resources, the predecessor of Mr. Tixier, was in the front of the room. You know, I remember, you know, I was called in his office. You know, I was very impressed by the big office, the big carpet and everything. And so when he told me, you know, we want to appoint you as general manager in Greece, I said, wow, fantastic, you know, and I thought I was a genius. But in fact, no, I realized 5 weeks later that they had proposed the job to 5 people, and they all declined the job because if you know, you had to be crazy. It was a kind of career suicide to go to Greece. But me, I didn't know, so I didn't care. But I loved it, and in fact, I learned a lot. And it's true that I learn in everything. I learn in Greece, I learn in France, I learn in Germany, I learn in Asia, I learn in New York. And it's true also that because of my timing was very often pretty unfortunate, because as you said very rightly, I arrived in Asia a few weeks before the Asian crisis in '97. I arrived in New York a few days before September 11. I took the helm of L'Oréal 1 year before the big financial crisis of 2007-8. Oh, you know, it's a good training. It's a good training.
Maybe I would like to remind you at this stage that L'Oréal is it's more than 1 century of existence. It's only, as we said before, 5 presidents. One all men. I agree on that. Among them, one was a kind of transitional president because he was belonging to the same generation as François Dalle, and so he was at the top of the company for less than 5 years. So it's 4 presidents. My point, they all entered the company in their early 20s. They learned on the field. They visited hairdressers, they visited customers, and they learned from the field. Ils ont fait la route. This is the usual expression. At the same time, they all assumed responsibilities in their very young age. And I have to add something. In the end, they all worked in only one company. This is L'Oréal. So it can be also a question, is it a good thing to know only one company? This is part of the identity of L'Oréal anyway.
Yeah, you know, I don't know if it's good or not. It's the way we work. And apparently it doesn't work too bad. No, but I think that, you know, profound, deeply, you know, I don't know if there is a recipe for success or 2 or 3. I think that there are many different recipes of success, but I think the most important thing is to follow the culture, follow the track of your culture, of your equity, of what you have been made for, etc. And it's true that L'Oréal, from the very beginning, has made some very strategic decisions about its long-term direction in terms of R&D, quality, globalization, talents, culture, and the fact that we are very, very loyal to this initial choices, I think help us. I mean, it's a strength. It's true that in your book you show it very well. It's amazing the continuity of the strategy. You know, we discuss it very often with Rémi, who works with me very closely, and it's amazing when you. Very often, you know, we take decisions, we write things, etc., and we discover that, in fact, we just wrote something which is exactly the same that what was written by François Dalle 40 years ago. And it's not because we want to follow what he said, because sometimes we don't even know that he said that. It's because there is a kind of cultural strength, a cultural identity that until now has been a huge strength for the company, and I don't think that it's over yet. So it's our way of doing it, and it doesn't mean that we are stubborn and that we are just we just want to look at us, at ourselves without looking outside. But on the contrary, especially in the past 5 years, we have been opening the company to newcomers from outside. We challenge ourselves permanently. We have this saine inquiétude that you translated, healthy worry. So we are not at all arrogant or sure of ourselves or whatever. But we are also conscious of our own strength, and we don't want to lose them. I also think that L'Oréal, in a way, I don't know if I should say that, but that's the way I think. It's a kind of tribe. It's like a tribe. We have we belong to a tribe. So we have our values, we have our history, we have our strength, we have our objective, we have our ambitions, and they are very collective, and this is very strong, I can tell you.
Okay, perhaps now we go over to London for some questions.
Of course. Hi, London.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, my name is Gaston Arcuri. I'm originally from Argentina and student of the MSc in Marketing and Creativity.
Very good.
My question is, what's your advice to aspiring CEOs, and how would you rank the role of creativity in this position?
Why? That's a big question. What do you mean by aspiring CEOs? CEOs. You mean at what age? At your age or later or what?
We all aspire to get to where you are now at some point
Good.
of our careers.
Good.
Good.
If you hurry, you can succeed me, but you have to hurry because I won't be able to wait 20 years, unfortunately. No, aspiring CEOs. Well, first, I think that I don't know if you should join a company because you just aspire to become the CEO of this company. I think you join a company because you like what they do, you like the people, you like their ambition, you like their winning spirit, etc. And then, as I did, when you join them after a few years, you say, "My God, I feel very good there. I understand this business. I understand the people. I understand the culture. Yeah, maybe one day I could become the CEO." But it's not an obsession. Also, it should not be an obsession. It's like the others say. You should not think about it every morning when you shave. So, but at L'Oréal, if you want, my advice would be, just give the best of yourself. What I can tell you about my own experience is that I was not, obsessed of becoming CEO, not at all. But I always gave the best of myself in every job I did. When I was a salesman, when I was a marketer, when I was in Greece, when I was in France, when I was in Germany, when I was in Asia. Not because I wanted to be promoted, but just because I love what I did, and just because it was a kind of passionate involvement, and I just wanted to succeed, and to make my team succeed, and to make my business succeed, and to make L'Oréal succeed, because it was a kind of a very strong enthusiasm. So I think that when you give the best of yourself, you have, and if you're good. You have a good chance to be promoted quickly and become CEO. Creativity is part of it, but I'm not sure that it's the number one skill. I mean, it's more important to be able to recognize who around you is creative. For example, I don't think that I am the most creative guy at L'Oréal at all. But I think that I am not bad at being able to identify who is good and put the people who are good in the positions where they could be very useful. And to be honest, this is very important. You know, I think that among the skills that you need to have to become CEO and to be a good CEO, they are very simple. One is very simply first to have a good judgment. You know, you don't need to be extremely smart, but you need to have a good judgment. When you need to take a decision, you know, you go left or you go right, it's better to take the right decision every time. So you don't take them always. But that's as simple as that. And the other one, which is very important, is the human resource factor, is to be able to identify the people, identify the talents, and put the talents in the best position. So at L'Oréal, we have very many creative people, who are much more creative than I am, but they are at the right positions, and that makes L'Oréal strong.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Jimena Velázquez. Can you hear us? I'm from Peru, and I'm also a student in the Master in Marketing and Creativity. And my question is, how does L'Oréal defies the status quo in order to foster creativity and innovation?
But you know, we have again this concept that we spoke about before, this healthy worry. And healthy worry was invented by Lindsay Owen-Jones. And it means that, you know, we never rest, in a way. You know, the famous advertising about the city that never sleeps. L'Oréal is a little bit the company that never rests. So when we have an idea, okay, we go with the idea, but someone says, yes, but maybe we could have a better idea. And then we change the idea. And then there is a third guy that said, yeah, but I think we could have an even better idea. And so this is a little bit chaotic, to be honest. This is a little bit tiring, because sometimes people say, you know, my God, take a decision and stop it. But I think that if there is one threat that is not a big risk for us, is to be too complacent or not to defy ourselves permanently with new ideas. You know, every time a competitor does something good, we look at it and we say, shit, we should have done it. Every time there is a new trend, we say, we should have spotted it. So we are pretty good at keeping our eyes open, our ears open, and permanently challenging ourselves. And I think it's very healthy also for a company. You know, I'm really doing what I can, the maximum I can, to keep, with the help of everyone at L'Oréal, of course, but to keep the company very healthy, you know, and not complacent, and not satisfied, and not quiet. As we say, we want to be a large company, but with the spirit of a challenger. A leader with the spirit of a challenger, or a large company with the spirit of a startup. So it's not always easy to implement, but it's really culturally what we try to be.
Okay, London, another question?
Yes, we have one more from London.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Vikas. I'm from India, and as my colleagues here, I'm also a student of MSc in Marketing and Creativity.
Okay.
My question is, how does L'Oréal maintain its luxury brand status while developing in global markets, especially in like price-sensitive markets like the emerging markets?
Well, you know, very simply, you know, we try to adapt to the markets. One thing is that we don't. You know, usually, for example, the products we sell, when we sell products around the world, they are roughly more or less, I say, at the same level of price, and that's a strength that we have. So, for example, if we sell, I don't know, Maybelline mascara or Lancôme Lancôme lipstick or whatever, you would find them roughly at the same level of price. Not exactly the same price, because there are currency fluctuations that make it difficult, but at least in terms of corridor of price, it wouldn't be very different. And for example, in countries where we think that we have some special needs to adapt to the demand, we make special formats, special sizes, special packaging. For example, in India, that I know very well, we sell our skincare not only in jars, but also in tubes, and in small tubes, and in sachet. And so we adapt. We try to adapt as much as we can, and we can to the possibilities of the consumers everywhere. And you know, we have a I would just like to add that because I think it's very important to understand also the spirit of the company. We have a concept that we invented at L'Oréal, which is the strategy that we follow that we call universalization. You know, it's a strange word. We invented it, by the way. It doesn't exist in the dictionary. And because we wanted to invent a concept which is not globalization, which is not internationalization. And what does it mean, universalization? It means that we want also, of course, to be universal, to have brands and even sometimes, you know, name of products that are global, but at the same time, we want to be able to adapt to the specific needs of every part of the world. So that's a very difficult combination to make, but I think we are pretty good at doing it, which is to have international brands, but in every part of the world, you would find within the brand specific products that respond to the very specific needs of the consumers. Because people don't have the same hair, they don't live in the same climates, they don't have the same dreams, they don't have the same beauty traditions. So what's very interesting also, what's fascinating in fact intellectually, is to be able to develop global brands with global equities, but then with products that really respond to the specific needs of consumers by regions.
So now we turn to Madrid.
Of course.
Let's go to Madrid.
Hola, buenas tardes.
Buenas, that's Madrid.
Hola, buenas tardes a todos. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Okay, Monsieur Agon, good evening from Madrid, and thanks for sharing your time with us. Well, let's talk about marketing a little bit. According to the current strategy of L'Oréal, is there any change in the way that you prioritize your different business and target markets?
Not really. I mean, of course, there are ways that we prioritize, but I mean, they don't change every year, of course. Huh? So the way we do it is pretty simple. In fact, as you know, L'Oréal is, we want to be present in all channels. So we have 4 divisions: professional, mass market, luxury, and active cosmetics in pharmacies. And we think that, plus the Body Shop, and so we think that we really want to cover all these channels. And each division is pushing, you know, its initiatives as much as we can. And in terms of countries, we also want to push everywhere. So, you know, at L'Oréal, it's not a company where we decide allocation of resources every year, saying, okay, this year we put the whole the money on one country or on one division, and the year after we change. It's more a long-term conquest, division by division, brand by brand, country by country. So what is clear is that right now, of course, we are pushing hard to conquer as fast as possible in the new big markets like China, like India, like Brazil, like Indonesia. But at the same time, you know, we are very pushy also in more established markets like the USA, like Germany, even France. You know, so there is no part of the world that we say, okay, we are happy with what we have and we don't try to get more. That's not the spirit of the company.
Another question, Madrid?
Hola, buenas tardes. One more question. Yeah, regarding your recruiting strategy for young professionals, do you expect any change in the near future?
No, I mean, no and yes. I mean, the change that we expect, of course, is that we will have more and more recruitments from new countries. Of course, you know, the big challenge today, France, it's interesting maybe for you to know, France today is 8-9% of our business worldwide. The Eurozone is now only 25%. And of course, I mean, the big development and the next billion consumers that I want to recruit, they are mostly again, in China, in India, in Mexico, in Brazil, in Peru, or so this is the change that we are doing right now, is that we are recruiting more and more talents from these countries. But it doesn't mean that we recruit less from Spain or UK or France or Europe in general, because, you know, we believe that we want to have the best talents everywhere in the world. And we also want the people to have opportunities around the world. So we are trying to find the ideal combination between the two. But in terms of profile, I don't think that there are real changes in the type of people that we are looking for. You know, we want people again, you know, we have an entrepreneurial spirit, who want to do something with their professional life, who are ambitious not only for themselves but also for their teams and the company they work for. People who have big dreams, people who dream big, who want to do something great and big with their life.
So we go back now to Paris, and we take questions from the floor. So questions?
Thank you for your time. I would like to know what is your strategy to reach your new 1 billion customers?
That's a large question. How much time do you have? But you know, first it's a simple. You know, it's not a crazy idea, because sometimes people say, "Wow, this guy is crazy." You know, 1 billion consumers, blah blah blah. No, it's not crazy. You know, we computed that a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, when we estimated that we probably have already 1 billion consumers around the world. You know, of course, we don't know exactly, because we don't have the name and address of every consumer. But we sell roughly 6.5 billion products a year around the world. And so, you know, just a computation, we said we probably have 1 billion consumers around the world. And so what we said was, you know, after all, if we have to summarize the challenge of the company for the next 10, 15 years, it is to double this number. And why is it possible? Because very simply, we're gonna keep recruiting consumers in the countries where we are. And in fact, there is a lot to gain. For example, in Germany, you know, even after 40 years, there are still one consumer out of 2 who still doesn't use a L'Oréal product, so we can really recruit. But also, obviously, we want to recruit many consumers from, again, the same countries. In fact, all the countries. You know, it's not only China, India, Indonesia, Mexico, etc. It's also, I don't know, Turkey, Malaysia, Russia, everywhere. And so the idea is just to continue to expand our brands in all these countries, recruiting new consumers, and also, of course, the addition of the acquisition. When we make acquisitions in these countries, for example, we acquire at the same time many millions of consumers. We acquired last year, I would give you 2 examples. We acquired last year a company in China. It's called Magic, and it makes facial mask, you know, skincare mask, because it's very trendy in China. People love that, and they are right, by the way, because it's very good for the skin. So I encourage you. I really encourage you to try. I didn't come tonight with my mask, but next time I promise I will bring some. So, and this guy, the guy we bought, you know, he sells, I think it's 250 million masks a year. So obviously in China. So obviously when you buy this company, you bring consumers. So I don't know exactly how many, probably, I don't know, 20, 25, something like that. So same in Brazil, we bought a company called Nieli, and they are the #1 player in hair color, local mass hair color and hair care. So again, it's probably 10, 15 million Brazilians. So between the conquest of the market, the expansion of our brands, the acquisitions of new businesses, I think that the billion will come pretty easily. I think so. Can tell you I will do the maximum, but welcome.
Hello, Mr. Agon. We know that in order to build a strategy, we have to know the strengths of a company and the weaknesses. So does L'Oréal have some weaknesses, or maybe not? I don't know.
Yes, many. No, of course. I mean, no, it's a very good question, because, of course, you know, I think that every company, like every human being, you know, has its own identity, its own personality, its own strength and weaknesses, and sometimes the weaknesses are just the mirror of the strength. So, for example, at L'Oréal, as I told you before, you know, I think we are pretty good at this entrepreneurial spirit, this decentralization, this permanent, rethinking of everything. But the mirror effect of that is that honestly, it's not always very organized. The process are not always perfect. It's pretty chaotic. Sometimes we don't have even organigrams very clearly to understand who does what. Sometimes everybody think that they are in charge of everything, and it's a mess. But it is a pretty productive mess. And the good thing, it's interesting because you could say, my God, how can a big company like that be a mess? Sometimes a mess can be productive. But in the beauty industry, in the digital age, where creativity, flexibility, agility is very important, I think that our way of doing is pretty adapted. But we have many weaknesses. Ask the L'Oréal people, they will tell you. They will spend an full evening to tell you about all the weaknesses and crazy things of this company.
Good evening, sir. Thank you very much for being here. My question is going to bounce a bit on your previous answer on the CRM strategy. Since L'Oréal doesn't have an own retailer like LVMH for Sephora or DFS, what is your strategy for knowing the 1 billion new consumer and customer?
But again, consumers mean people who buy our products. So you don't need to have your own retail channel to sell your products. And for 100 years, we have always used the retailers, who are, by the way, our partners, to sell our products. So for example, in luxury, we sell through Sephora or department stores. In mass, we sell in France through Carrefour, Leclerc, etc. Or in active cosmetics through pharmacies, and that's the way. That's a good way, because we are not a retailer. We are a beauty inventor and manufacturer. So the thing that is changing, you're right, right now, is the fact that with the digital, you can have the data of your consumers, and that would be very important for tomorrow. But again, you don't absolutely need to be a retailer to have the data of your consumers. Thanks to e-commerce tomorrow, thanks to the digital relationship that you create with your consumers, we will probably be able, in the years to come, to know our consumers, to have the data of our consumers without being obliged to be also at the same time a retailer. And this, by the way, this digital transformation is something absolutely fantastic and huge for us, like for many other companies. And we really want to be ahead of it and the leader of it.
Good evening, Mr. AGON. How do you do to integrate those international brands such as Magic Holding in China, for instance, into L'Oréal culture?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We do it progressively, and I have to say also that we have there has been an evolution in the way we do, because in the past, I would say 5-10 years ago, we used, when we acquire a company, to L'Oréalize it, L'Oréaliser, we send the battalions of L'Oréal in terms of R&D, production, marketing, blah 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 blah, and so, but that was another time. Today, we think that when we acquire a brand, it's very important to try to learn a maximum from them, from the way we do. So, of course, we integrate it. We integrate the brand and the business in the L'Oréal network. But because it's pretty decentralized, and it's possible for a new business to exist in the L'Oréal network without being completely, in too much squeezed in the L'Oréal system. And I have to say also that even recently, there have been companies or brands that we have acquired, and I think at this time they will transform L'Oréal. For example, I'll give you an example. We bought a makeup brand last year in California, in Los Angeles. It's called NYX, And NYX is a completely new type of model for makeup. You know, it works only with bloggers and vloggers, and it's a completely new system. And for us, it's a fantastic learning. And as I told, you know, the teams last week, you know, in the past we used to L'Oréalize acquisition. I think in this time we're going to use this company to NYXize L'Oréal a little bit. So it means you see that we are pretty humble, you know, when we see people who are doing things that we believe are very important and new to us. We try also to learn a maximum from them.
What will make you feel that personally you've done a good job at L'Oréal in 10, 20 years' time?
Yeah. Oh, well, it's pretty simple, you know. If I think that I continue the adventure of the company, you know, again, you know, as I said at the beginning, I think that L'Oréal is a great adventure. It's an adventure that started 105 years ago with a great continuity, a strategic vision that has never really changed, an ambition that is pretty consistent, and a dream. Our dream, our mission, we call it today Beauty for All. So our ambition is to be able to offer to all women and men around the planet the best of cosmetic, the best of beauty products in terms of quality, efficacy, safety. And so that's a very long-term mission. And so my personal ambition is very simple. I just want to continue the adventure. And I just want to be the man that during these X years, you know, I don't know how many years it will be, but during these X years, has continued the adventures, has also adapted the company to a changing world. That's very important too. You know, when you are in a company that has a great continuity and that capitalizes on its strengths and cultures and assets, the very important thing is to make sure that, okay, that's good, but at the same time, you have to adapt the company to a transformed world. And I think that the world today is in fantastic transformation. And I really want also to change L'Oréal, to do the changes that are necessary for L'Oréal to become more, for example, I have 3 ideas: more universal, because it's the era of universalization; more digital, because this is also the era of the total digital transformation; and more responsible also, because I really believe that in the 21st century, companies will have to be very responsible in terms of sustainability to be able to perform. So I want to do that. I want to continue the adventure and at the same time to transform the company in order to make it ready for the next step.
And it's a personal warm thank you, and of course an institutional multi-campus thank you that we owe you tonight, Mr. Agon. Thank you.
Maybe if I can say just another word, I would like to conclude also on the fact that it's true that this book is really good. The only problem with that is that I think our competitors will read it. So if you can find a way, if Duno can find a way to make sure that no competitor buys it, I would be very happy. But it's a very good book, so I encourage all of you to read it. And also I want to tell you that we really love your school. You know, I almost joined the school 40 years ago. But we love it, and we love it for what you said. We love it because this school has some strong characteristic. Number one, it's very international, and I think that the bet that you have taken, the fact that you are the most international European of business school is a very, very positive strength, because for us, you know, the number one thing that we expect from someone who joined L'Oréal is to be very open-minded, very international, very ready to work in any type of country, of language, or whatever. So I think that this prepares you extremely well, at least to a company like us. And I also understood that marketing is a forte at l'ESCP. And so again, you know, if some of you in the room want to do the supreme art of marketing, you know where to go. Thank you.